Okay, so an assembler takes low-level code, like MIPS, and turns it into machine code for a CPU. That's what an assembler does. It's a one-to-one translation. A compiler takes a high-level code, like C, and converts it into low-level code, like MIPS assembly. We haven't written that yet. So we write in int I equals 5 and turn it into the 6 lines of MIPS assembly code that's equivalent to that.
Okay, so basically what chapter 4 was doing.
Exactly what chapter 4 is doing.
My bad.
Yeah. You say you're good. You already knew she was telling you bad information, didn't you?
Let me hold on a second.
What's up?
Yeah, I guess I was pretty confident in my answer. I apologize.
What? Make a slide for what I just said?
Yeah.
Isn't that like old information? Like.
No, I don't think we have
Sometimes we just
mentioned
need
it
to
in
hear
class
things 3
before.
times and then it'll.
Well, no, I've like mentioned it when you were like sophomores.
You can't assume that we haven't.
Usually, because everyone forgot what they did during stuff.
All right, hold on. Both eyes are not working. 1 second. I usually get one good one.
But by the way,
Second to last.
Aha! Nailed it.
Headaches?
Huh?
You get headaches?
No.
Birthday?
Only last week.
Only the last week.
No. No. Only last week's class. Yeah. No, I very rarely get headaches. But last week's class I had a headache. But like I know, like you get like migraines and stuff. My headache was like a nothing burger. I had like a slight headache, but I don't typically get headaches. So for me, it was kind of bugging me.
do we get your headache?
Well, no, I don't really have a headache today. Seem okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just last week, and then none of my people had medicine for me.
I brought some.
Like today, just in case?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't trust it. Whatever she's gonna give me, I can't. Fool me once.
Still off the record.
No, we're recording.
Can I ask a question? Just
Premeditated pills they bring. Go ahead.
So why exactly, just because it's not required anymore, could we cancel the whole CS hackathon though?
Well,
Like we do one every semester. I
Yeah.
personally think it's really fun.
it is, and so it looks like some students are going to still get together on those days and still do a hackathon.
But it's not
Huh?
gonna
Why was it canceled?
The students weren't happy based on the surveys. They weren't happy with the number of required events outside of class,
like,
and
doesn't mean cancel it, just don't
well, it
make
does for me.
required.
I mean, so like, why do you think a student might not like being forced to go to a 12-hour hackathon or being forced to go to a 24-hour hackathon?
Just the fact that they don't have the choice.
Okay.
Like, if it were me, like, yeah, I'd be upset that you're requiring it, but I would still want to go.
You would be in a very small minority.
Just saying.
If
really
I
enjoy it.
I get it, and I would have been the same way when I was in school. I'm just saying, the way the modern student is, if you don't require it, they're not showing up. So if I require that hackathon, 50 some people show up. If I don't require that hackathon, 6 people show up.
That's all you need is 6 people.
Well, you're right. So those same 6 people are going to go to the hackathon anyways. I don't have to officially hold it, and I don't have to buy the pizza. It's a double whammy.
Can you at least pass on the information as you find out about it and stuff? Like, if you said it's gonna be on the same days, but like,
It's on Slack. They're already talking about it on there.
Well, Hackathon Club.
a gaming one, no.
Yeah, I think that's the one for. But they said something related to gaming. But I mean, a hackathon is anything you make it. You can show up and not like the topic and just spend 24 hours writing your own thing.
Oh, they're doing the 24?
I don't know, the 24/12. Yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't matter. A hackathon just says I'm going to lock myself in a room and write code for a while. That's what a hackathon is. Sure.
So what happened? You canceled the 24 hours?
Oh, you didn't check Slack.
No.
Did you check your email? You
canceled
check
both of them.
you check nothing.
No, I
Right, this is what happened.
still opted in Slack.
So the first hackathon was supposed to be a week from this Saturday. Supposed to be next week.
Sure.
I canceled that.
Really?
Yeah, not doing that one. Yeah.
News back here.
No, I did not know. I thought it was just.
Yeah, I think there's some students who are going to still get together and do something for it. And I'll actually be here that day, so I might even do something with
It
it.
looks like they're saying it's going to be when the 24-hour one was.
Yeah, but I think there's another group of students doing another one. But whatever. Maybe that just hasn't hit the public market yet. This is all. This is all. Yeah, whatever. This is all hearsay at this point. But yeah, so I think there's some students who are going to still do some kind of hackathon thing a week from Saturday, and I'll probably be here for a good portion of the day, anyways, doing some stuff with it. But it's not required. I'm going to leave the assignment up because apparently some people were banking on the points from the assignment. I guess the mentality was they can just do crappy on their other homework and they would ride the extra points. So it won't hurt you if you don't do the assignment. So the assignment, if you don't turn anything in for the hackathon assignment, I just will omit the grade. I can disable it for you. Otherwise, there's a project for the 12-hour one and a project for the 5-hour, the 24-hour one, which I just think sound like amazing assignments.
Is it like the 12-page thing?
I thought you said in the comment.
No.
Can you require the hackathon again?
Yeah.
No, you don't have to do the homework.
Yeah,
You don't have to do it. This insane assignment I'm talking about, I don't expect anybody to
It's
do it.
basically extra credit. It's extra credit.
Just an extra credit.
It's not even extra credit.
No, it's just to like.
It's since my classes, your 60% of your grade, 60% of your grade is your homework average. So let's say you have a crappy homework average. You could choose to do the 24-hour hackathon penalty assignment, and that counts as 5 homework assignments. So if you get 5 100s, that will bring your homework average up. So if people were relying on that as part of their success strategy in a class, then they can do the replacement assignment I've put up there. The 24-hour one is to hand write, you gotta do this by hand, the entire book of Leviticus.
20 chapters, by the
How
way.
many? 20 chapters?
27.
That's for the 24-hour ones. That counts as 5 homework
When
assignments.
does that due?
I guess whenever. Let's say by the end of the semester.
Okay.
By end of finals week.
Like 1 page a day.
I know.
Get that done.
That's what I'm
Which
saying.
book are you saying?
I might do it.
Leviticus.
Now,
It's the 3rd book of the Bible.
So what are we supposed to learn from that?
Nothing. I even put in there, this is not related to CS whatsoever. This is for those people who really think that they need those extra 5 homework assignments to offset bad homework grades.
why does that have to
So,
be that
can
reason?
I ask? Because before you canceled it,
Mhm.
you said if we got a doctor's note, we could get an alternative assignment,
Mhm.
penalty assignment.
Yep.
If I get a doctor's note, can I get an alternative assignment that is related to CS?
Potentially.
but is not handled?
Potentially. I will be reasonable for reasonable requests.
Do you have a Bible in you? I want to see how big it
It's long. It's long.
Just Google it,
very long.
Bible Gateway.
Well, I mean, it doesn't say how many pages it is, but you can scroll through that.
The bottom line is, it's not like I grade homework hard. So if you're in my classes and you put your effort into your homework, you should have a high homework percentage coming into the final. You shouldn't need 5 free points for handwriting Bible books. Huh?
This is long.
So what if we write like half of Leviticus?
No, it's all or nothing. Yeah, you can't just say, I'm going to offset by one homework assignment. I had 1 bad homework assignment, so I want to offset that one by writing 20% of Leviticus. Can I write 1/17 of Leviticus and get 8 points back on this assignment? Yeah.
That thing is a fair trade. Well, I mean, are you gonna read it all?
It's got to be handwritten. If somebody really does this, I'm going to pay to have it professionally bound.
Okay.
I'm going to keep it in my office like a scroll.
You do realize I'm probably gonna do it.
Yeah.
right?
I'm totally down. I will pay to have that thing bound. I said in there that you can scan it and submit it as, but I don't really want that. I want
You want it?
it submitted so I have something to grade online. But
Does
then
it have to be lined paper or online paper?
I will give extra credit if it's on parchment, and it's bound with those strings.
Okay. What do we get for that?
At that point, if you're handwriting the entire book of Leviticus on effectively a reproduction of the Dead Sea Scrolls, we can negotiate. Is what I don't expect anybody to do that assignment. It's a ridiculous assignment. So what I would instead encourage you to do is participate in one of these student-run hackathons and stay for as long as you can. So something like that. Do something reasonable with your time. Yeah.
So if we go to the hackathon and like, what if I had a project that involved computer science in some way, and I spent the entire day building my project?
Yeah, that would be
cool.
That would be a great learning experience for you, wouldn't it?
What about the grade?
Not just for you, for anybody. I mean, you spend the entire...
Insult.
Huh?
It's very insulting.
No, I don't mean it like that. It would be a great learning experience for anybody to go and say, I'm passionate about this project, and I'm going to spend 12 hours today just working on it. You'll learn a lot, but I'm not giving you course credit for it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, so what you're basically saying is if you go to a hackathon, do you have to do the prescribed hackathon content, or can you kind of just be part of the event but basically use it as motivation to do your own thing? That's fine. That's how the hackathons work down at the Commons. Whatchamacallit, what's the name of the group that puts that on? But whatever. It's not uncommon for people to just come there with their own projects and just say, hey, I'm hanging out with other people who are programming for this, I think that those are 12-hour ones.
Well, we wouldn't get any credit for doing that.
No, it's unrelated to class. It's disconnected from class now.
Then what's the difference between going to a hackathon and class then? If you're saying that it has to be related to class, how is hackathon related to class?
Well, because you're learning computer science stuff.
What's the difference between, well,
I think
that
everyone
makes sense.
wants the hackathon.
Well, no. I mean, like, okay, so you said because it's related to computer science stuff, how come a project that I do, like, I'm gonna give you an example, a project that I would do would build a website, because that's something
Sure.
that I've been meaning to do for a
There's
really
nothing
long
wrong with
time.
that.
And how is that not related to computer
It
science?
is.
Right.
It's not related.
But it's not necessarily related to like a course that you're in. It's something that'll...
He's saying even if you just went to the hackathon, you're still not going to get credit. Even if you just participate in the hackathon, it's no longer.
Yeah, it's no longer something that's related to your grade in the class.
Well, there's nothing we can do to change that.
Well, no, I still encourage you to go to the hackathons. Like you should, the reason to go to the hackathon should be that you want to learn, not because you want grades in a class. And then you flip it around as I shouldn't have to bribe people to go and learn.
We can't do both.
Yeah.
Well, and then I have a big group of people, actually a very big group of people who basically said that they're offended by me bribing them to go to the hackathon.
Who are these people?
Yeah,
seriously,
like how many people?
We had 76 responses, and I think there was at least 30 that had a comment along those lines.
They were pissed about there was a
How many
bribe.
people are in or there is no 200?
Okay, here's the question: how many of them had already been to that hackathon?
I don't know, because they're anonymous.
It's ridiculous.
Oh, I mean, it's good for me.
I
That's
feel
12 hours I don't have to spend next Saturday.
But you enjoy
It's
that.
24 hours I have to spend the next one, and I don't have to plan them.
But you enjoy that.
And they
I don't care about the
like
money.
either.
The money is the easy part. If the whole thing could just be solved by ordering pizza, I don't care about that.
I don't know. I'm definitely concerned about the whole like now we. I mean, I'm not banking on the hackathon for extra credits. I'm not one of those people. But
Okay.
it's nice.
Sure.
It is.
And nobody's forbidding you to go to a hackathon.
Yeah, but
The hackathon club's going to one this weekend in Champaign. They're doing a couple other ones that Josh Appel, I think, was either, if he didn't post it, he's about to post it. He mentioned that they're doing some other ones with the hackathon club. It looks like there's definitely some students who are going to do something on the 24-hour day, but you can go and do 5 hours, 7 hours, 10 hours, whatever makes you happy. Nothing says you can't. People in this class can't put together a little group for a week from Saturday to come in and work on something together for the
well, the
hackathon.
point is the whole credit thing. That's the point.
Yeah.
There's no more credit anymore.
Well, I didn't take the credit away. You still have an opportunity to get the credit.
Leviticus, yeah.
Yeah. But you don't have to do it. It's not going to hurt your grade one iota if you turn nothing in for that.
There should be something else besides Leviticus.
Why?
Because you said you weren't expecting anybody to do it.
Right. I mean, if I had my druthers, I would have just taken the assignment completely down. But because I would have then had students complaining that, well, technically you promised us 5 homework assignments worth of grades, then, I mean, I'll even be fair. I'll say, look, if you put a stopwatch on it, you can stop handwriting Leviticus at 24 hours. Whenever that hits. Wherever you are in Leviticus, we'll call it square. Huh? Yeah, the point is that you were going to come do something for 24 hours. So I guess I don't get what the problem is.
It's just the fact that like it was an opportunity to get a grade, yes, but it's also the fact that like it was something fun. Like it was gonna be CS put together, and now that's not even there. Like yes, there's the other hackathons, but we're still missing out on that grade, even though that wasn't like the main.
You're not missing out on the grade. Grade's still there.
No, I mean like if we went to a hackathon, like just to do it, like.
Yeah. But should you have to get a grade to go to the hackathon?
No, that's not what I'm
Like, isn't that kind of sad that I have to bribe you with a grade to go to the
I'm
hackathon?
not saying you're necessarily were like for the bribe, like more just because like we wanted to go, but we also got the benefit of that.
If I had, obviously this would have played out horribly. If I had required the hackathon, can you require it but not attach it to a grade? Probably not. What if I just said we're having this hackathon? There's no grade attached to it. How many of you would have gone to the hackathon?
I probably still would have gone.
We got one hand up and a probably.
Because I was even.
Okay.
I was even saying to Andrew, like, if you did make it where it wasn't required, but it was still happening, I still would have gone.
Well,
I enjoy it.
and I appreciate that, and I think that there are certainly a percentage of students that would. And I think what you're going to see is those students are the ones that are going to be up on Slack organizing hackathons for those days anyways, because they know people had already saved the date for those days. So the hackathons can still happen. And if you're banking on the points for the other things, it would be different if my classes were based on total points, but mine aren't. My classes, it's your homework average. So if you have a 99% homework average, let's say, and 500s on homework takes you to a 99.1 or something, right? It barely moves the needle for your homework average. So having 500 more points doesn't help you with the way I do my grades. My grades is your homework average is worth 60% of your grade. So if you already have a high homework average.
With how many points you give each assignment, though, it still technically is points.
No.
Because it looks at the.
If I give you, every assignment is a percentage. A 95 out of 100 or a 9.5 out of a 10 is the same thing. You know, there's not a total points thing. It's a homework average. Bible homework is worth just as much as that crazy 20-hour assignment. Same exact score. Oh, whatever. 40 hours. A lot less than Leviticus. That's like going to be the new. That's going to be the new meme. We're going to get a Lippman meme that just says it's a lot less than Leviticus. And do it like on the Hulk one, the Hulk meme. Yeah.
Let the pastor know your assignment.
Oh, I'm sure they'd love it. No, I mean, it would be a jerk move if I said, okay, well now, no hackathons, but now you're required to handwrite Leviticus. It'd be funny, but like for 5 minutes. You are doing zero harm to your grade if you do not participate in the ridiculous assignment. But if for some reason you've put yourself in a position where those homework assignments are that critical to your success in the course, you always got Leviticus. Well, that's what'll be awesome for me. This almost goes back to I'm still terribly hurt by the fake tears.
That's like almost right now.
Huh?
Remember when I was handed vials of tears and I found out it was not tears years later? Yeah. That sticks with a guy.
Those good times.
Yeah. Now you got Leviticus. You have a chance to redeem yourself.
You'll be talking about this for years.
So if I get even if I get one, I'm not expecting one, but I'll tell you what,
I think you're gonna get one.
it would be really funny if a group of students got together and all did parts and handed me effectively something that looks like a Dead Sea Scroll. It's already aged and stuff.
How would you split that grade up though?
I don't know. I'd probably just give you whatever you wanted. It'd be a great gift. I mean, that's something you can't buy that. You had to put sweat and tears into that. Legitimately tears.
I'm actually wondering now that you said time span for that 24 hours, how long does it take?
3 hours.
How many?
For the lady at the hackathon, it's 3 hours for writing.
3 hours?
3 hours for
Well,
writing.
that's not that bad.
For which?
That's not counting handprint.
The book of Revelation,
For Revelation? Yeah, Revelation is a lot shorter.
42 pages. 3
That
hours.
seems like it's more than 3 hours of writing.
Yeah, I think that'd be way
To
more.
transcribe, I think transcribe's technically not the right word because I think that assumes it's coming from audio or some sort of digital data sets. Can you transcribe from printed text to written text? Okay, that is transcribe. So I think transcribing Revelation, even though it's going to be a lot shorter than Leviticus, has to take more than 3 hours. It has to take something like 12 hours. It could be exactly 12 hours.
I wonder how many pens it would take to go through.
Oh, you can't use a pen.
There's 22,000.
Yeah, you got to use those calligraphy, the bird
Honestly,
feathers.
if I do this, you're paying for new pens.
I will provide pens.
No pens?
I will provide new pens.
I actually
This is going to become this weird hazing story on campus. It's okay, well, he zigged when he should have zagged. It would start off as a hackathon, then he didn't require that anymore. Now we're writing Leviticus by hand in our computer science class, but the teacher's providing the pens and the parchment, and he's getting it professionally bound with horse hide.
I have a calligraphy pen.
Oh, I have plenty of calligraphy
You
pens.
provided the notebook
not kinda
for
messy.
writing it.
They're really hard to work
It
with.
should
Yeah.
take like 6.37 hours to write Leviticus. At
6.73 hours to write Leviticus.
At like 22 words per minute. If you write.
We'll see, yeah. So, I mean, I'm really doing you a favor.
It would just suck.
That's a quarter of a hackathon.
That would hurt your hands.
It's 23 pages on Word.
Think of how much
Looking at parchment?
No, actually.
And the thing is, at least the content of Revelation is somewhat exciting. Just imagine you're sitting there just dictating, Leviticus. I guess the only thing would be worse is Numbers. But what you're saying is, since Leviticus is only 6 hours, we probably do have time for Numbers.
No.
What are you saying?
Numbers?
Transcribe the Torah, the first 5 books.
Verses wise, Genesis is even longer than any book.
In less than shut up.
Just saying.
Those weeks that you're gonna have these hackathons, you're gonna give the same amount of homework?
Oh no, don't bring that up. Why are you doing this to us?
No, those are disconnected.
No, I know, but if it was connected,
That is
I would be able to go, for example, no? Because then it would be 12 hours that I would spend on a hackathon, that's kind of homework, whatever. But if you give homework, then I would not be able to go to the hackathon.
right, because before hackathons you usually don't give homework.
Yeah, but in a grad class, I'd probably give more homework.
Do
Yeah, I'd
not.
give extra homework
Do
before.
not.
Yeah.
I don't think there's been a
No,
time
that's
where.
that's sort of trying to avoid it. Just want to go, but if I attach to my homework, I can go.
Okay, so you asking me, am I going to give less homework now for the weekend, for the week leading up to the hackathon that's no longer required?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
They're unlinked now. Unlinked. You should still go to the hackathon and experience it for a little bit.
No, yeah, that's why I was wondering, because I'm sure if it was required, you'd not give as much homework. But
I'd give twice as much homework.
No.
But now I might give 3 times the amount of homework because you don't have it required any longer.
Yeah, okay. So I can't go. I can't go.
Look, if you haven't started that week's homework yet, you're not going to finish.
I know. I'm aware of it.
else is great.
Are you going to go to the hackathon?
If there's interested students, yeah, I'll come. I'm at all the tech talks, aren't I?
Unrelated.
Have I been at the hackathons every year? You've been at a hackathon?
Well, this time it's not required, so is it required for you still?
Oh, well, what you guys got credit. What did I get for going to the hackathons?
Vacation.
This is vacation.
I'm old. I can't stay up for 12 hours straight and be sane.
12 hours? You
I'm
stay
getting
awake for 12 hours?
programmed for 12 straight hours and be sane.
You
All I'm
watched
saying,
golf.
huh?
You watched golf.
That's true. I did watch golf. Well, because that last one fell at a very inopportune time.
And who
That was the final round of the Masters. Well, we didn't think about golf. I thought about educational experiences.
You done messed up.
All I'm saying is I wasn't the one complaining about the hackathons, and I wasn't getting paid to go to one. So I was showing up.
We'll give you a gold star.
I don't need a gold star. I don't even need a pat in the back. I want what's best for my students.
Just ignore these people.
Huh?
Yeah.
Ignore them.
Well, no. Now we all win.
No, we don't.
The students who care about the hackathons will still go to the
That's
hackathon,
if we get the
and they'll
correct information from
probably
people.
they'll probably actually be able to accomplish more because they won't have to be dealing with 2 or 3 team members who are just completely uninterested in being there. Now everybody who's there is actually excited about it and wants to learn, and maybe you'd actually accomplish more stuff in the projects and stuff like that. Could be a better experience for the people who actually want to be there. So now we've connected it to more of the hackathon club as a service provider for hackathons rather than it being computer science department. And now I no longer have to link it to coursework.
So maybe there should be like this secret plus to going to the hackathon. What about if like people that show up?
So you want a secret bribe?
No. Hear me out. People that show up to the hackathon actually do get a little credit. They show up to the hackathon.
Oh, and I promise you would get credit.
Oh, the learning.
I think if you polled graduates of Concordia for a while, you would find that emails from Mike Lippman to employers are very powerful. So you would get credit if you show me that you really care about things and wanted to learn stuff and value things outside of the valued stuff outside of your homework assignments for class. Isn't getting like a recommendation for an internship or a job like far, far, far more powerful than some stupid homework assignment that you already had a decent homework grade in? Seems like it to me, doesn't it? Yeah, those are valuable things. So you really do get credit when your teachers see you doing things that are above and beyond just the average student.
It actually would take 17 hours. I did the math.
For Leviticus?
Yeah.
That's a big
Because,
difference.
6 versus 17.
I promise if I can read it in Chinese, it will give me less time.
I would love to see that.
He's not gonna rate the book of Leviticus
Because we
in
use
Chinese.
less words.
And you don't even need credit from other people. Wouldn't you just feel good about yourself if you
I
like
would,
spent time
honestly.
doing a learning experience that you weren't forced to do, that you chose to do? Don't you always feel better when you do something because it was your idea rather than somebody forced you to do it?
For sure.
See, even the Chinese guy thinks that's a good idea. It's on recording. We're at 28:50, I think. If anybody's looking for a timestamp. No. Everything is for the permanent record in a Lippmann class. The good, the bad, the ugly. It's all out there.
How many days are left in the semester?
No, it's not bro. It's a bruh.
Sorry.
I shouldn't have to be teaching you this stuff.
But you do.
Oh, and by the way, I knew the thing you said earlier. I find those jokes that end in that funny. Well, I'll have to do it and tell you during one of the breaks. We're recording now. What was it? Something about Leviticus or whatever? And you said,
She's like so lost.
she's oblivious to whatever. All right.
Remember.
What were we talking about?
You were gonna make a slide for the differences between
Yeah, you could do,
compilers
like,
and
under-
interpreters.
So we go from a slide. Oh, by the way, I forgot because the people also want more breaks in here apparently. So every 5 minutes we're going to take an 8-second break. Okay, do the math on that. You actually come out way ahead. We'll take more breaks.
Oh my.
You don't want to do crazy math with a crazy person.
Wait a second. Is that-
5 minutes, 8-second break.
Is that in
Back to work.
In a survey?
Well, yeah, but I mean that's reasonable. I get going on things, and 2 hours later, after the third person has got up to pee, then it's probably time to take a break. Yeah, that's not intentional. That's, yeah.
Well, you're not forced to then say you cannot leave before the class ends.
Well, no, I mean, because I think in general, students don't want to miss what's going on in class, but sometimes your bladder has another idea. So, yeah, those are completely reasonable comments. So we'll attempt to take more breaks. But if I had taken some of the comments literally when they said we should have more shorter breaks, we could do a whole lot of 8-second breaks.
Wait, there was people commenting on no breaks in this class?
Yeah, I think more than one. So I mean that's an addable percentage. I mean probably a third of the class, and that's a fair comment. I mean I get sucked into whatever I'm doing. I don't realize the time's gone by that fast. That's reasonable, and I don't mind that people get up and go. But you don't want to miss what we're talking about, or you might not want to. Sometimes you don't want to miss what we're talking about. Sometimes you just don't want the teacher to think you care. You don't care about missing what you're talking about. So I'll do my best, but at some point you can just tell me to, when it's time for a break, just tell me to shut up and we'll just pause or whatever. Yeah, I won't be offended. It's not my intention.
I was thinking that too.
My intention is to punish your brain, not your bladder.
That can also be.
What's this? That's 32 minutes and maybe 9 seconds. If you're looking for pulling some of these out. All right, let's make our stupid slide.
Are we still going to talk about assignment?
21 minutes a day and you can have it done by
That's really not that bad.
So he said we could do it at the end of the
Yeah, I'm good by the end of finals week. I know.
So you have like 5 people right there planning on doing
Yeah.
it.
Hey, look, I would be lying if I didn't say I was excited. But it was not my intention for people to actually write Leviticus.
You're gonna get 5 stars all around on your
For Christian worldview, it's like, look, it doesn't get any more Christian than this. The guy made us handwrite Leviticus. Like, well, that could be Judaism. No. We did Revelation too. We almost bookended that puppy.
For Revelations, is that 3 assignments still then?
It is.
Okay, so that's 8 assignments right there.
Yeah, you got 8 assignments by transcribing some Bible.
We're all gonna be missionaries after this.
We all changed majors. Oh, after all this, it's time to go out into the field. I'm joining the Peace Corps. What?
But you can think this only happens in Christian school. Not Christian school.
I tried to punish them by making them write Leviticus. They asked for more.
That would be more to recite a lot of Leviticus and Revelation by the end of that assignment too.
See, the Revelations one I'm actually excited for because I've actually never read Revelations,
It's
and
hard
that's
to
one that
go
I've
over
always.
Well, Revelation is like basically impossible to read.
It's like all 7 angels. and-
Yeah, Revelation makes great books and great movies. Some of my favorite book series and usually book series deal with like interpretations of Revelation and rise of the Antichrist and all that stuff. And I think it just makes great kind of biblical fiction, biblical drama type stuff, biblical-esque fiction. Let's call it that. But it doesn't. Left Behind is probably my favorite series. It's a 13-book series.
Hi, who's that by?
Tim LaHaye, Jerry B. Jenkins. It's actually the series that probably converted me to Christianity. And it's not even in line with Lutheranism.
What's it about?
It's an interpretation of the Book of Revelation.
Oh.
One of the authors is, but I mean, it's. So I mean, this is the first 3 minutes of it. Basically, you have a bunch of main characters, but one of the guys is a 747 pilot, and there's this thing that Lutherans don't necessarily believe in, but some Christian denominations believe in this thing called the rapture, where a whole bunch of people disappear because Jesus comes and takes his people. All right? They're caught up in the sky with Jesus. And so different denominations have like a pre-rapture tribulation, a post-rapture tribulation, and a no rapture. We just get the tribulation, whatever. There's some different rules. You know, pick your poison. I'm not looking at this as a biblical book, so I'm not promoting it as this is a Lutheran, well, not even a Lutheran worldview. I don't think it's necessarily biblically accurate. But it is very, very, very much inspired by the Book of Revelation. So one of the guys is like a Bible scholar, and so you got the 747 pilot. All of a sudden, half of his passengers are gone. You know, half of them were Christians. They've been raptured. Everybody else is still on the plane. All you see is clothing sitting there, and this happened all around the world. And then, what would happen next if that was page 3 of the book? How does the next 13 books play out with that stuff? It's really it's a fascinating book. Well, they literally are linear. They tell the story of Revelation. I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I really couldn't pick a favorite. I think the first 12 are part of Revelation. The 13th one is maybe the most interesting one. I think it's called Kingdom Come.
Yep.
But that one's completely just, let's call it fiction. It's the idea of what would it be like in the 1,000 years on earth with Jesus after it's all over. So it's just, it completely based on just like, we're just pretending what might happen. But just kind of fascinating to think about those types of things. This is not a replacement for Bible study by any stretch of the imagination, but it's very, I found it very entertaining. And I would call it not anti-Bible. It follows a reasonable modern interpretation by, let's call it reasonable Christian denominations of the Bible. It just wouldn't be identical to what Lutherans would necessarily say they believe Revelation means, but it's not like horrifically anti that. It's a different take on it, I would say. So it's entertainment. I think it's good.
What's the name of the first book?
Left Behind. There is a movie series that's based on the book series. It's nowhere near as good, but if you just wanted to get a taste, you could. Kirk Cameron's in the movies. There's Left Behind and Tribulation Force are both movies. They were like right to DVD. And then the third one is like a combination of like the next 3 or 4 books. It was pretty suspect, low budget went to no budget type thing. But if you're a fan of the series, you'd like the movie, but it wasn't like a well done movie.
Is it the one with Nicolas Cage in it?
Well, sort of, yes. There was a full feature film called Left Behind with Nicolas Cage in it that was supposed to be based on the book series. I didn't like that one as well. That basically tried to compress the first 9 books into a 2-hour movie.
1 through 16?
Huh?
There's 16 volumes?
No. So there's 12 volumes in Left Behind. Then there's a 13th volume, which is like post, so let's call that 13 volumes from Left Behind. Then you have 3 prequel series, which is the rise of the Antichrist from when he was like born up to the beginning of Left Behind. So it's prior to that, so it's a pre-series. And then you have some other spin-off series that deal with that same time period. So same world as the Left Behind world, but it's from different, character perspectives, things like that.
Like really well-read books.
Oh yeah, they were like top bestsellers, New York Times bestsellers type thing.
Does it feel like kind of like an action handbook?
Yeah, and if you like audiobooks, Audible has the whole Left Behind series. I think it's all the 13 books at least, in an experience of sound and drama where it's actually dramatized. The book series.
I like this.
Yeah, and it's really well done.
I started reading your How to Get Rich Quick or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And then listening to it a couple times.
All right. So you want your stupid slide now? What was the slide? No, compiler versus assembler. So assembler converts low-level code into machine code. Compiler converts high-level code into low-level code. Now, when I say low-level code, what am I talking about?
One-to-one relationship.
Yeah, so that's, I'm sure we have it in here, but let's just put it in here. Types of languages. We have machine language. That's zeros and ones. We have low level. This is a one-to-one relationship with a CPU. And we have high level. One-to-many relationship with a CPU. So machine language, self-explanatory, zeros and ones. Low level in our world and here has been MIPS assembly language. High level in our world, what was it, chapter 4 was the C thing?
Yeah.
It's the C programming language.
What is the first high-level programming language?
Oh, the very first high level programming language? Oh, I guess I don't know. I probably should know that.
I think that should be count as common sense.
Before COBOL.
Oh, definitely. Way before COBOL. Yeah, because it would actually be, see, before, and well, and also you have to then give a definition for what we mean by high level. Because you have a transition period probably in the,
Fortran.
well,
That's
with stuff way before Fortran.
Well, it's saying that that's what the first high level programming was.
Oh, I would.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so let me finish this thought. So before we had real-time programming like we have now, where we have a computer with a text editor that we can type stuff into, we had punch cards, right? So punch cards, you would sit here and you would actually punch out the zeros and ones into your punch cards and then run them through a machine that would run your program. So every single time you wanted to test your program, you had to go wait in line, wait for the machine to be ready, hand them your stack of cards, hope that they're not bent or you don't have any hanging chads or anything like that. It runs through the machine and outputs your output and you find out whether you did your homework right. If not, you go sit down, do it again. Get back in line, run it again. Not very efficient. So imagine trying to become an expert programmer when that's your cadence, right? It's kind of the difference if you had to feed yourself, but you always had to hunt for it. We probably would be less, well, I would certainly probably be skinnier. If I had to hunt for my food instead of just, walk into the grocery store and swipe a credit card. Well, that means I also have to cook it. No, just walk into the restaurant. I make reservations.
You can
So,
hire people to do
yeah, you hire people to do the hunting for you. That takes too much time. Yeah. Yeah, so in, what was I talking about? Oh, the punch card thing. Yeah, so then we had, so it must have been around 1964, 70 maybe, 1970-ish. 1970-ish, we had kind of these first mainframe computers that allowed for real-time automatic programming, where you could actually sit down at a keyboard and write code and then test it in real time. So whatever language they were running, it's probably some form of like the basic programming language or something like that. But I'm not sure. I'm guessing at this point. It's possible it was Fortran. That would just surprise me. That
Wikipedia says Fortran.
it says Fortran. Well, I'm guessing that's probably right if we have a couple of sources for that. But That just surprises me. That was the first language, but whatever. Interesting tidbit of Fortran, so I'll throw a little out there, is Fortran does not support recursion,
Okay.
which is an interesting
So how
fact
did
about,
they lose?
well, you can do loops, you just can't do recursion.
Okay. So interesting.
Yeah. So it basically lacked a stack. It didn't have a stack data structure. But in any case, that was around the time period for that first computer that had, you could write real-time programs on. But what places did is they would charge a lot of money to have real-time, to be able to have time on that computer. You know, so most people, even full-time, let's say, computer science professors or something like that at universities, they wouldn't have been able to just sit down and write code. You know, the decent chance their university didn't have those kind of machines, and even if they did, they would have been competing with, you know, the physics people and all sorts of other people for time on that CPU, because we didn't have these super crazy high-powered CPUs like we have today that can do a zillion things at once. It was, the time on them was fairly precious. And an interesting connection to that, and it's interesting that this kind of comes up now, but there's this book I've been telling people about recently called Outliers, and one of the things they talk about in this book is Bill Gates and why Bill Gates became crazy super rich. So he's the Microsoft guy, right? And kind of the idea was he had an opportunity when he was 16. He went to a high school where there was an investor, I think it was some kind of mothers club or something like that. So there must have been some very rich mothers associated with the high school who donated this computer to the school from a big company. And the company wanted the high school kids to basically test it, take it through its paces. So you had these 2 or 3 students, including Bill Gates, probably the same kind of kids that would go to the hackathons, let's say. I mean, that's probably a true statement. You know, these people didn't have to be bribed. They just, 4 a.m, I can have computer time for free. I'm there. And so he got all of this CPU time writing software when nobody else, or very, very, very few people in the world, certainly no 16-year-old, had that opportunity. And that made him into, you know, what he did post that was all potentially because of that advantage he had back then, which is kind of a fascinating fact. But I mean, I see some, you know, obviously I'm not Bill Gates, but, you know, when you kind of take that group, and this still is related to this hackathon thing, is like, you know, and maybe that's why it's extra frustrating for me, is I would never, ever, ever miss an opportunity for those things. When I was a kid, I lived about 15 minutes from the University of Illinois. It's one of the places where the internet was born. NCSA is the National Center for Computing Applications. One of the first web browsers was something called Mosaic. And I was there the day that the guys from NCSA came out and like put it on the machines in there. They brought it out in a little floppy disk to test it. Okay, well, why was I there? Because you know, kids say they want their mom to go drop them off at the pool or whatever. I had my mom drop me off at the computer lab. I walked in with my little thing with a bunch of floppy disks in it, you know, in case I wanted to install stuff. I'm not even kidding. And that's where the internet lived, was at NCSA. Back then, you really didn't have dial-up internet or anything like that. So if you wanted to have internet that was worth anything, you had to go to the university. And so I went to the University of Illinois, and Mom would drop me off at like 8 a.m, pick me up like at 9 p.m. I just hung out in the computer lab. I just hung out in this computer lab with these people. Made friends with the guys who were working on the web browsers and things like that, and kind of started, you know, they would give me little things to work on. I kind of started programming. It was like a 9-year-old. I might find my little Ninja Turtle backpack.
You still have that.
Now, that doesn't mean everybody has to be that way. I realize that that's weird, but that's my mentality I come from when I think about opportunities like those things. Classes always just got in the way. of doing the other stuff, the stuff where learning really takes place. But now we got to shove it into the class. All right, so types of languages. We get this. Machine language, zeros and ones. We don't want to talk to computers that way. Low-level language, we doing this MIP stuff. We all wrote the program for today. The program wasn't that bad, right? Homework assignment was fine.
I think the hardest part was trying to figure out, like, I spent a good amount of time just trying to think how it would work in our scheme.
Yeah, it should have worked in our thing.
It kind of like freaked me out a little bit, so I just did it in the simulator in the Zybook.
Okay.
I
Huh?
think a lot of us tried using this.
Yeah, I kind of.
Did anybody do it in our emulator?
Oh,
I think you probably just have to take up the comp.
Didn't our emulator work? It should have worked fine.
Yeah.
I didn't try in emulator. I only did it in our scheme code.
Well, right, but you didn't have to change our code at all.
Yeah.
You just wrote assembly in
In the list.
in our list.
For inputs, I was kind of just assuming that we were gonna directly input stuff into the data memory already, because that was the part where I was kind of confused.
Why? We support input. We support I/O with our.
It was just kind of confused to me. So.
I was hoping I was not going to have to do it. Okay, we're going to do it.
I think it's just.
Seems like half the class missed these.
I think it's just because the compiler that we have for MIPSI, whenever it already understands that we should set A1 and A2, 2-1, whenever it has something in input.
Yeah.
So we just do a little different when you writing scheme.
Well, right, but here was the
We get,
assignment.
like, more steps.
Write a MIPS program that reads in two numbers. So we specifically had to read in two numbers from the user. That implies not hard coding the numbers into memory, right? We're reading in numbers from the user.
Yep.
We determine which number is smaller. So we're gonna ask the less than thing, and then displays all the numbers between the smaller number and the larger number to the screen. That's our loop. So that's going to be just keep going back and forth between a label until we branch past it based on something else. Yeah, you should be able to test it with our MIPS implementation. So how do we do I/O? Don't we do I/O? Don't we read in things from a user by putting some information into a certain memory location?
Yep.
We then that. So if we here, let's just finish this test thing real quick, and then we probably should take a quick break. Okay, compiler versus assembler. We get this. Both of these are required. Ultimately, when we want our C program to run on our MIPS processor, we compile it into MIPS low-level code, and then we assemble it into the zeros and ones that the CPU actually understands. Make sense to everybody? All right, so let's take 5 minutes. Is that fair? 5 minutes, and we'll come back at 7:13.